My name is Frank Kanig, and I'd like to tell you about some of my times in the desert. Most people have heard of Stonehenge in England and the Aztec calendar from South America. Well, it turns out that there are some equally significant phenomena like that right here in our own backyard. I grew up in both Utah and California. We lived for a while in Kanab, Utah, just north of the Grand Canyon. I worked on a ranch there as a kid and had lots of adventures out in that desert. Somewhere along in my college years, I began to feel a close bond with the people and the landscape of the Great Basin and the Colorado Plateau. I still find myself drawn to this area. In the 1990s, I joined the Utah Rock Art Research Association, or URARA. At the time, it was made up of a lot of old desert rats and a few scientists and researchers. Even though a few of them may have been known to hug a tree, I figured they might need someone with a livestock and grazing background like me to balance their chi. Besides, they knew the location of every rock and petroglyph in the Southwest. I kept hearing about some URARA members who were making some exciting discoveries. One of them was a man who had actually received a grant, and whose resulting research concluded that a type of astronomical calendar was present at Parowan Gap in southwestern Utah. I met Nal Morris while he was leading a field trip at Parowan Gap. Nal has performed archaeology and astronomy research and field work in the United States, Mexico, and Egypt. He also has been programming computers since the 1950s. Nal developed a computer program capable of determining the time and the place of the sunrise and sunset anywhere in the world. He named this program Shamos. Using Shamos to tell him the sun's path at a given time, Nal began to visit and research various sites. He ended up at Rochester Creek. At Rochester Creek, above the ornate panel, Nal noticed a separate set of marks that seemed to correspond with the spacing of solstice and equinox. It was determined that the shadow of a rock in the foreground hit on the marks above the panel exactly on the solstices and the equinox. While at Rochester, the solar calendar requires a shadow to hit a specific petroglyphic mark, at Parowan Gap, Nal Morris figured it would not be a shadow on a mark, but rather the actual gap itself that would be the key factor. But how did it work? After much study of the V-shaped petroglyph which is prominent at Parowan Gap, Morris calculated that the sun, viewed while setting in the gap, would be key. Morris decided that if he were correct, there should exist in the foreground to the east of the gap ridge something to mark the spot from which the sun would appear to set within the gap on a specific date, such as summer solstice. Morris calculated the coordinates on which this marker should lie. He walked east along this line with compass in hand, and lo and behold, there was not just one marker, but no less than 3 for each of the significant solar interactions. Some astronomy professors say this is even more significant than Stonehenge. Near Blanding, Utah, Reed and Norma Lance discovered a site with some remarkable solar calendars, marking not only summer solstice and winter solstice, the equinoxes, and the cross quarters. The shape of some of the shadows involved at the Lance site are thought to have possible religious or spiritual meaning. When you're out kicking around these Native American places, you realize that there was an energetic, well-organized, complex society in place, and you can't help but wonder how it would have kept on developing if it hadn't have come to such an abrupt end. I've visited many of these sites with my friend Dave Anderson, who remembers the first time he saw Parowan Gap.
I'm a First Nation for Turtle Island. I am Dene, which is Navajo. I've been able to come out here today and honor the 7 generations before me and the 7 generations after me with my pipe, the Shanupa, and honor them in a good way in the 4 directions. So as a Native American, I can come to these places and see that we are truly all related. In Lakota, there's a saying, We are all related. It's Aho Mataquiasi. First time I came here, the sun was just about setting, and I could feel the presence of my people.
I feel pretty lucky to have crossed paths with people like Dave Anderson and Nal Morris and my old friend artist Jimmy Jones. It's just another example of the things I've got to be grateful for. I'm grateful I had parents who knew the outdoors. My father was a fish and game captain in California. My mother came from a sheep ranching family in Utah. They took us camping, and I've been blessed with a lot of wonderful experiences. The desert has a stark beauty all its own. The author Craig Childs roams the desert with his wife and 2 small children, feeling the land he writes about. I envy him. But I'm glad I get out as much as I do. Well, I guess that's about it. I'm glad for this opportunity today to be able to share the wonders of Parowan Gap with you. I always find it quite satisfying when I'm able to expound on...
That's about enough out of you, old man. All right, we got rid of him. But I guess I could check my Facebook account. Oh, a new friend, Nal Morris. Great. Accept. Oh, look at that. Parowan Gap group. On Nal's homepage. Accept.